All right, so get this. American Express just had their Q3 earnings call for 2024, and it's way more interesting than it sounds. Trust me.
Oh, I believe it.
We're talking about how the wealthy are spending their money, how Amex is adapting, and what it all means for you.
Right.
And get this, they're reporting record revenue for the 10th quarter in a row. 10 quarters. That's unheard of in this economic climate.
It is impressive, especially with all the talk of a potential slowdown. But, Amex isn't catering to the average consumer. Their focus is on what they call the premium customer.
Okay, so we're talking folks with like a taste for the finer things,
Yeah.
who are less likely to flinch at a few economic wobbles.
Exactly. Think high-end travel, fine dining, those sorts of things. Unique experiences. Those are the things that tend to hold strong even when the rest of the economy, softens. And for Amex, this strategy is paying off.
So while some companies are tightening their belts, Amex is out there popping champagne corks.
You could say that.
I mean, good for them, but how does that translate into their actual, strategy?
One word: organic spending. It's all about getting their existing customers to spend more, and it seems to be working. They're seeing that growth even with a slight dip in the spend per card member metric, which is interesting.
Interesting. So even with the economy potentially cooling down, these, premium customers are still swiping their Amex cards, just maybe a bit less frequently?
Precisely. It's more of a rebalancing after a period of, shall we say, post-pandemic enthusiasm.
Which makes sense. Everyone was making up for lost time. But you know what else caught my eye? The fact that Amex is seeing huge growth from, wait for it, Millennials and Gen Z.
It's an interesting trend for sure.
And get this, Gold Card acquisitions are actually higher than Platinum, driven by these younger demographics. Who would have thought?
It's a fascinating trend, and it speaks volumes about the shifting dynamics of what those generations value. It seems the allure of a platinum card is being overshadowed by something else, the desire for experiences, particularly in the culinary world.
Which brings us to Amex's major moves in the restaurant world. They acquired Resy a while back, and now they've added TickerTalk to their plate. It seems like they're going all in on dining.
You're spot on. Dining is one of their fastest growing spending categories, and it feeds directly into their membership model strategy. Essentially, they're going beyond just transactions. They're aiming to embed themselves into their customers' lives, particularly the younger generation. Think curated dining experiences, exclusive access, reservations at those impossible-to-get-into spots. It's about belonging to a club, but for foodies.
It's like they're creating a sense of community and aspiration, all centered on food.
Exactly. And for Amex, it's a brilliant move. They're tapping into a powerful trend. Younger generations are prioritizing experiences over material possessions, and they're willing to spend on it.
It's not just about flashing a fancy card anymore. It's about what that card unlocks, the experiences, the access, the bragging rights.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now, this focus on experiences isn't just about attracting new customers. It's also key to how Amex keeps them spending more over time. And that brings us to their credit card upgrade path.
Okay, let's unpack this. The CEO, Steve Squeri, mentioned how customers often climb the Amex ladder, moving from green to gold to platinum cards. What's the financial logic there?
It all boils down to the lifetime value of a customer. Amex designs its card benefits to encourage more spending and engagement, leading to higher card fees and revenue over time.
So they're playing chess, not checkers.
Exactly. They're cultivating relationships, not just chasing transactions. A gold card holder today could very well be a platinum card holder tomorrow.
Smart. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, interest rates. Amex is in a unique position here, wouldn't you say? They're what's called liability sensitive.
Absolutely. Essentially, that means changes in interest rates can significantly impact their profitability. And with rates in flux right now, it's a delicate balancing act.
Okay, so for those of us who don't speak fluent finance, break that down. What does liability sensitive actually mean in this context? And how are they handling it?
Good question. It essentially means that a large chunk of Amex's funding comes from sources that are directly affected by interest rates, like deposits. So when rates go up, their borrowing costs increase, which can eat into their profits.
Ah, that makes it crystal clear. So to counter that, they're using those high-yield savings accounts we keep hearing about.
You got it. By attracting deposits through these accounts, they're creating a more stable and, importantly, cheaper source of funding. Think of it as a strategic buffer against interest rate swings.
So it's like they're hedging their bets while offering a product that customers actually find valuable. That's a win-win.
Exactly. But it's not just about The rates themselves, it's also about how they manage their lending business in this environment.
Right, because lending is a huge part of their revenue, but it can also be risky if the economy takes a downturn. What's their approach there?
They're focusing on what they call revolving balances, which is the credit card debt that customers carry from month to month.
So instead of just one-time purchases, they're looking at ongoing credit use.
Precisely. And while these revolving balances are expected to moderate, Amex is banking on them as a long-term growth driver, especially among their higher spending customer base.
It sounds like they're playing the long game, which is no surprise coming from Amex. But with all these moving parts, interest rates, lending strategies, a potential economic slowdown, it seems like they're walking a tightrope.
That's a great way to put it. They're being opportunistic while also treading cautiously, a strategy many of us could probably learn from.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on, let's circle back to those younger customers for a moment. The fact that gold card acquisitions are outpacing platinum is a pretty big deal.
It is significant. It suggests a shift in how younger generations perceive status and exclusivity. For Millennials and Gen Z, it seems it's less about the traditional prestige of a platinum card and more about aligning themselves with brands and experiences that reflect their values.
And for this generation, dining experiences are a huge part of that,
They're looking for authenticity, shareability, something unique they can post about. It's not just about the food, it's about the story behind it.
which is exactly where those Resi and TikTok acquisitions come in, right?
Right. Those platforms give Amex incredible leverage. They're not just a credit card company. They're the gateway to sought after reservations, exclusive events, even cooking classes with celebrity chefs.
Look like they're creating a VIP club within a VIP club.
Exactly. And that exclusivity makes it even more attractive to those younger demographics. It's not just a meal, it's a status symbol, a talking point.
A way to signal your discerning taste to the world, right? It's brilliant marketing, really.
It's a savvy strategy, and it speaks to their ability to adapt to the changing consumer landscape. But, let's not forget, Amex is navigating some choppy waters with the economic uncertainty and fluctuating interest rates.
Right, that liability-sensitive nature we talked about. It's a lot to juggle. How are they managing that risk while still making moves to grow their business?
They're being very strategic. Those high-yield savings accounts are one way they're creating a buffer against interest rate hikes, but they're also being incredibly deliberate with their lending strategy.
Makes sense. Lending is where they make a significant chunk of their revenue, but it's also where things could get, well, dicey if the economy takes a nosedive.
Precisely. They're focusing on their premium customer base, where they see strong credit quality and loan growth. But they're also keeping a close eye on the broader economic environment and adjusting their approach accordingly. It's a balancing act.
Like walking a tightrope, but with billions of dollars at stake.
Exactly. Now, while everyone's focused on what's happening with consumers here in the U.S., Amex is quietly making some serious moves internationally.
Really? Tell me more. I didn't catch that in the earnings report.
Yes. Their international card services segment is booming, with double-digit growth in several markets. They're seeing particularly strong performance in places like Japan and Mexico, where there's a growing affluent class eager for premium products and experiences.
So they're taking that winning formula and, expanding it globally. Smart move?
It is smart. It allows them to diversify their revenue streams and reduce their reliance on any single market. They're essentially hedging their bets on a global scale.
That's some next-level strategy right there.
Yeah.
But let's zoom in on one of those international markets for a second. What's catching your eye from an analytical standpoint?
Japan is particularly fascinating. They have a culture that values quality and exclusivity, which aligns perfectly with Amex's brand identity.
So how are they tailoring their strategy to that specific market?
They've partnered with some of Japan's most prestigious department stores and hotels, offering exclusive benefits and experiences that cater to that desire for luxury and prestige. They're also tapping into the Japanese passion for travel, offering curated travel packages and experiences that you can't get anywhere else.
So they're really doing their homework, understanding the cultural nuances, and adapting their approach accordingly.
Precisely. They're not just trying to force a one-size-fits-all approach. They're tailoring their offerings to resonate with local tastes and aspirations.
It's like they're speaking the language of luxury, but with a Japanese accent.
Exactly. And it's paying off. They're seeing incredible growth in that market.
It's a good reminder that while we often talk about, the global economy, consumer behavior can vary drastically from one country to the next.
Absolutely. What works in New York City might not fly in Tokyo. Companies that understand those nuances and are willing to adapt will be the ones that thrive in an increasingly globalized world.
Speaking of thriving, let's bring it back to Amex's overall performance. They're clearly doing something right, but there are always, risks and challenges to consider. What should we be watching for as we move into the next quarter or the next year? What could potentially throw them off course?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Always.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Amidst all the impressive financials and, strategic maneuvering, there was one subtle but powerful statement from the earnings call that really resonated with me.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What was it?
Amex's CEO, Steve Squeri, he talked about the importance of fostering a culture of belonging within the company. And he directly linked this internal focus to their external success, suggesting that when employees feel valued and respected, it translates to a better experience for their customers.
That's interesting. It's not something you typically hear discussed in an earnings call, especially when you're talking about like a financial giant like Amex. This seems a bit soft.
Exactly, but that's what makes it so noteworthy. It suggests a shift in perspective, a recognition that long-term success isn't just about, profits and losses, but also about people and values.
So are they saying that a happy employee equals a happy customer? That's quite a leap from talking about credit card acquisitions and revolving balances.
It's not quite as simplistic as that, but there's definitely a correlation. Think about it. When employees feel valued and respected, they're more likely to be engaged, invested in their work. They're also more likely to go above and beyond for customers.
Which, for a company like Amex that prides itself on customer service, is absolutely crucial. They're not just competing on products or rewards points, they're competing on the experience they deliver.
Precisely. And that experience is ultimately shaped by the people on the front lines, the ones interacting with customers every day. If those employees are content invested, it's going to show.
It's a good reminder that even in this age of automation and artificial intelligence, human connection still matters. In fact, it might matter now more than ever.
Couldn't agree more. Now, whether this focus on a culture of belonging will translate into even stronger financial performance for Amex, well, that remains to be seen. But it's a compelling narrative, and it speaks to a broader trend we're seeing across industries, a recognition that businesses need to be more than just profit-generating machines.
They need to stand for something, to have a purpose beyond just the bottom line.
Exactly. And that purpose needs to be reflected not just in their marketing materials or their mission statements, but in the way they treat their employees, their customers, and the world around them.
It's about walking the talk, not just talking the talk.
Precisely. And while Amex certainly has its flaws, like any company, this focus on belonging is a step in the right direction. It's something we should all be thinking about, both in our professional and personal lives.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that success is about more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about creating something meaningful, something that resonates with people on a deeper level. Well, I always knew these deep dives would be insightful, but I never expected to walk away with such profound reflections on the nature of business, humanity, and, well, the quest for the perfect plate of pasta.
There's always more to discover when you take the time to really dig into a topic.
That's what we're here for. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey through the world of American Express.
Yep.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those credit card bills paid on time.